Nina had never been inside the Meridian Galleria during its glory days, when teen couples kissed behind potted palms and parents lined up for photos with animatronic reindeer at Christmas. By the time she was old enough to care, the department stores had papered their windows, the food court tiles were cracked like dried lake beds, and a foreclosure notice hung where the map of "You Are Here" used to be. But that, she told her 165,000 followers, was precisely the point. Dead spaces have the best acoustics, she said in her morning vlog, angling her phone so the damp, echoing atrium filled the frame. Tonight, we bring it back to life. The plan was simple. Post an invitation for a midnight flash dash, a new challenge where dancers sprinted through abandoned places, hitting choreographed poses at timestamps synced to a trending remix. 10 poses, 10 seconds apart. The last one to be struck under the skylight for the final beat drop. Tag, post, repeat. The hashtag, flash dash meridian, had trended before noon. Nina's inbox flooded with flame emojis and calls for a collab. She imagined a river of LED sneakers and ring light headbands cresting through the mall, lighting up forgotten corners like fireworks in a cave. What Nina didn't know, what hardly anyone remembered, was that the Meridian Galleria had been built on someone else's abandonment. Long before retail dreams and parking lots, a mound rose there, crowned with cedar and wild plum. Travelers left tokens, knotted grass, scraps of bread, whispered prayers. They called the spirit of the mound Koro, the one who answers in echoes. Centuries later, when surveyors flattened the hill, the older name was ground into concrete, but not erased. Divinity, like mold, slips into cracks and waits. Koro was not alone. Retail architecture proved an accidental pantheon. Air vents howled for Velt, the god of wind who craved motion. The fountain, dry now, coins crusted with green, was home to Clymene of discarded wishes. And in the food court, where pigeons nested above rusted Sparrow signs, Lounge Jaw, lord of endless appetite, who once feasted on sunlit sacrifices of grain and now nibbled on popcorn kernels and lost earbuds. They were the forgotten, their power receding century by century until they were little more than shivers in peripheral vision. What sustained them now were fragments of attention, a teenage dare, a photographer's lens, a security guard's sigh, mere crumbs until Nina's video went viral. The hashtags shot across servers like prayers. Millions watched, anticipated, waited. And in doing so, they named the place again, gave it location in collective imagination. Koro felt it first, a prickle like static across cracked terrazzo. Then the others roused, stretching translucent limbs from their niches. They tasted not just notice, but participation. For the very shape of a flash dash, the poses, the synchronous movement, was ritual wearing a neon hoodie. Tonight, Jaw rumbled from the darkened orange Julius counter. We banquet. Security was minimal. Old man Weber, whose job was to rattle doorknobs twice a night, had given up patrolling months ago. So, when the first dancers slipped in around 11:45, no one stopped them. They came in waves, local TikTok crews hauling portable speakers, fledgling influencers trailing videographers, curious high schoolers who couldn't dance but wanted clout. They laughed, shushed, and unspooled ring lights down corridors labeled clearance by ghosts of stores. They scouted for the 10 stations Nina had marked on her digital map: the carousel, the wishing fountain, the butterfly mural by defunct Forever 21. Nina arrived last, as befit the choreographer of this pilgrimage. She wore an ultraviolet tracksuit that seemed to glow even when her phone lights dimmed, and she carried a small Bluetooth cube printed with a silver labyrinth. It played the remix she'd commissioned, 10 metallic thumps, tempo accelerating, each beat bookended by a digital clap. She placed the cube at the atrium's center, beneath the skylight where moonlight pooled like skim milk. "Ready?" she called. Hundreds lifted phones. Record buttons shone red. At precisely midnight, the sound erupted. Thump, clap, thump, clap. The mob rushed to the first post, an empty Build-A-Bear kiosk. They struck the opening pose, arms curled like plush ears, while camera flashes strobed through dust. Koro inhaled that light. Power coursed up the escalator rails like mercury. Pose 2. At the shuttered Victoria's Secret, dancers framed their hips with pink bags they'd fished from dumpsters. Velt rode the whoosh of their bodies, wind swirling into a minor cyclone that flicked confetti from decaying advertisements. Pose 3. The Fountain. Kleiman felt the echo of coins that phones had never captured, and, for a heartbeat, appeared in dozens of lenses as a glimmering face upon stagnant water. Comments scrolled in, real time. Did you see that reflection? Behind the scenes, algorithms amplified. Every forward swipe, every heart tap, every duetted reaction was a little lit candle in a vast church. Forgotten gods, whose old power derived from gatherings and story, discovered that livestream metrics tasted almost the same as belief. Yet, like any sugar rush, it spiked dangerously. Their forms coalesced, Koro's body of gravel and old wish lists, Velt's limbs twirling from air ducts, Clymene clad in overlapping mall maps, and Ja towered obese with chewed gum and half-eaten cinnamon rolls. Pose 4 unfolded at the cinema entrance, where posters for films no one would ever watch curled like funeral ribbons. A dancer named Mateo was too slow. The crowd pushed past and he stumbled. Ya licked his lips at the smell of spilt energy. A feast of embarrassment and adrenaline. He leaned close. One breath, nothing more. But Mateo felt it as a gust so rancid he doubled over. Phone screens captured his retching. Sympathy emojis bloomed. Ja grew fatter. Not every participant kept to the script. A rival influencer, Sheldon Vex, had plotted to hijack Nina's clout. His crew carried smoke pellets dipped in iridescent dye. They planned to unleash them during Pose 9 under the skylight, capturing a color-burst signature shot. But Sheldon miscalculated his timeline. As Pose 5 rang out, he tossed the pellets early. Teal fog billowed through Macy's, scattering dancers. Comments exploded. You mean it's part of the set? The chaos splintered the ritual cadence. Music kept hammering, thump, clap, but bodies no longer arrived in sync. Koro felt attention drift. Power cracked like faulty wiring. Forgotten gods fed on pattern, on collective intention. Without it, they might never fully wake. So, Koro took action. Echo was his domain. He stepped onto the mezzanine overlooking the confusion and spoke in a voice that had once rolled across prairies, guiding hunts. Pose 6! Every phone, every speaker, every earbud broadcast the same command, though only static hissed from Nina's cube. The dancers jerked to attention as if the PA system had revived. Nina frowned. She hadn't programmed vocal cues, but saw an opportunity. She leapt onto a bench and repeated, Pose 6, the carousel. Sheldon cursed. His sabotage became momentum. People stampeded toward the broken merry-go-round, where flaccid horses hung suspended on rusted poles. A generator Nina had smuggled in powered a single spotlight that caught the chipped gold filigree. They posed, 1 foot raised in mid-gallop. The unity clicked. Livestream viewers typed, OMGGG. This is epic. Mallcore vibes. At that instant, Koro's outline sharpened. He wore shards of mirror for eyes and badminton rackets for ribs. His mouth was the hollow sound you hear when you shout into HVAC. Yet to most cameras, he remained only a flicker, an anomaly they interpreted as low bitrate. Pose 7 at the defunct Wet Seal, Pose 8 under a skylight shaped like an octagon. Each step braided the mob back into rhythm. Even Sheldon, shaken by the voice that wasn't a voice, found himself compelled to follow. Dancers who had started as strangers now moved like a single body, each clamoring for the thrill of belonging. That thrill dripped sweet and thick into the gods' waiting mouths. On the mezzanine, Old Man Weber stared from a folding chair. He'd been drinking from a brown bottle, lulled by muffled bass, believing kids were filming a music video. When he saw Koro stride past a women's shoe store, luminous and impossible, the bottle smashed from his hand. He muttered half-remembered hymns from his grandmother's Omaha tribe, but could do nothing except watch as Pose 9 approached. Pose 9 was set where the mall's 2 wings intersected. The walkway rails formed an X, and overhead hung a chandelier built of rings of fake ivy, once called the the Garden Bridge. Nina had planned a leap and freeze, everyone airborne for exactly half a second. They rehearsed this in the parking lot for weeks. But as they gathered now, a hush fell. Dozens stared upward, sensing something thick as humidity pressing on their skulls. Kleiman glided along a fracture in the floor tiles. She had no legs, her torso tapered into a ripple. She whispered, "The offering is ripe." "Not yet," Velt argued, dancing from overhead fan to overturned bench. 10 beats, 10 poses, ancient symmetry. Jaw burped. The air smelled of corndog nostalgia. Mortals are impulsive. Take them at 9. Koro silenced them with a gesture. Our strength is not yet full. Lure them to the skylight. There, the moon pours double attention. They acquiesced, for Koro still recalled stratagems of worship. Once, sacrifices had been made atop a mound so that the blood could fall unseen into roots of cedar, marrying heaven and earth. Tonight, a skylight would serve. Nina, unaware of cosmic negotiations, rallied her followers. She counted off, 3, 2, 1. Bodies jumped. Camera flashes froze them mid-air. A dopamine avalanche erupted in comments. Ost, Flash Dash Meridian cracked 1,000,000 posts. Pose 9 complete. Breathless, participants sprinted to the final location. Center atrium, directly under the skylight, ringed with dangling banners of past sales. Clearance 80% off. Spring into savings. The Bluetooth cube still thumped, its LED pulsing. Moonlight streamed unimpeded. No clouds dared steal the spotlight. As they assembled, Koro, unseen by most, extended his arms. Velt conjured a slipstream that funneled loose papers into swirling halos. Kleiman coaxed water from old pipes. Droplets hovered like pearls. Ja parted phantom lips. Nina felt her scalp tighten. The mall was humming, or maybe she was. "Final pose!" she yelled, throat dry. The remix reached its climax. 10 rapid thumps, faster than a heartbeat. Everyone jumped again, limbs outspread in a human snowflake. The moment their feet left the ground, the gods acted. Koro spoke a name that history never recorded. It sounded like the rumble before thunder and the crack after. The sound vibrated concrete. For spectators on TikTok, the live stream pixelated into impossible fractals. Those present found themselves weightless longer than gravity allowed. Mid-air, they saw silhouettes. A woman with eyes of coin light, a child made of dust devils, a mountainous glutton stitched from food wrappers. Wonder collided with fear, and fear tasted better. Phones clattered as dancers crashed down. A ring of force pinned them to the tiles. Nina fell to her knees, hands pressed as if in prayer, though she meant only to stand. The rowdy crowd dissolved into silence, pierced by heavy breathing. No alarms, no sirens, only Koro's echo sustaining itself. Velt inhaled the panic. Ja waddled forward, every step leaving a puddle of grease that sizzled on marble. Kleiman extended arms over the fountain. A wave of stagnant water rose, defying physics. Koro addressed them, voice resonating through ventilation. "You summoned us. You dance in our house. Your eyes feed us. Your clicks sustain us. Now give fully, and we shall bless you." What blessing meant was unclear, but everyone understood the price. A sob from a freshman named Lily broke the hush. Instinct made her bolt toward the west exit. Velt flicked his wrist. Wind slammed the gate shut, rolling thunder through chains. Sheldon gulped, knowing his brand boost plot was now a survival problem. Nina, though trembling, stood. She'd courted attention all her life, from perfect report cards to trending memes. This, she realized, was the raw thing behind the likes. A primordial hunger. And if hunger was a negotiation, maybe she could bargain. She lifted her phone, still streaming despite spiderweb cracks. "Everyone, back to your markers," she shouted, voice ragged but commanding. "Pose sequence, again, faster." Heads turned. Fear can be herded. People craved instruction. Nina's followers obeyed out of habit. Others followed the mass. They scrambled to their former stations. Build-A-Bear, Victoria's Secret, Fountain. Though Ruby's burger sign now flickered with ghostly glyphs. Koro frowned, lips chiseled from dental plaster. "Mortal, you cannot reset a finished rite." "Watch me," Nina spat. She restarted the track, scrubbing to the opening beat. Thump. It echoed, frail compared to God voice, but amplified by dozens of speakers and thousands still watching. Comments rolled. Is this scripted? ARG, immersive theater? The outside world, unaware of the metaphysical peril, kept lending attention. Pose 1 snapped. Even trembling, they nailed it. Pose 2. Ja lurched, confused, as energy diverted from him back into choreography. For forgotten gods, power was not stolen, but channeled. Ritual could flow both ways. Nina gambled that repeating the structure in reverse might drain them. She was right. With each synchronized motion, the crowd remembered agency. Phones rose again, not to feed maws, but to guide bodies. The second round went quicker, hearts beating with terror-fueled precision. Koro tried thunderous commands, but echoes collided with music, producing garbled feedback. Velt sent gusts, yet dancers anchored each other, arms locked. Kleiman's water arc splashed harmlessly onto linoleum. They reached pose 10 in reverse, the carousel, just as the track looped. Instead of leaping, they crouched low, fists touching ground, a posture of closure Nina improvised on instinct. She shouted, "Post!" The word carried, pixelated across substrate, flinging countless posts into the algorithm. Energy recoiled from gods like tape ripped awake. Koro staggered, mirrors in his eyes spider cracking. Velt dissipated into a sigh that fluttered banners. Ja belched coins, shrinking with every clink. Kleiman's water collapsed, splattering tipped trash cans. Yet, dismissal was not destruction. Gods are hard to kill. They retreat into what created them. As they ebbed, Koro met Nina's gaze. In his shattering visage she read neither malice nor gratitude, but recognition. Two content creators acknowledging each other. "We sleep," Koro rasped, "until the next trend." Then light folded inward. The atrium became only a derelict space again, smell of mold and expired perfume. The skylight showed ordinary stars. Police sirens wailed in the distance, summoned by noise complaints queuing during the storm. Bodies stirred. Some sobbed, some laughed hysterically, others vomited disbelief. Nina sank to the carousel platform. Her phone buzzed with tens of thousands of new followers. Notifications eclipsed the screen like falling snow. She could post. She could frame the ordeal as performance art, claim credit, monetize trauma. But when she raised the phone, she saw her own reflection swimming in the black glass. Eyes dilated, cheeks streaked with tears and dust. She pressed power until the screen died. Sirens neared. Doors banged as cops entered, flashlights cutting into the gloom. One officer shouted for everyone to exit in an orderly fashion. Another examined the damaged fountain and muttered about hefty fines. Dancers filed past mannequin graveyards, clinging to each other as if stepping out of a dream. Outside, dawn tinted the horizon. A few influencers instantly live-streamed recaps. Their audiences debated CGI, rumored marketing for a horror movie, insisted none of it could be real because no official source confirmed injuries. Social media turned the impossible into content, and that content fed algorithms. And those algorithms, well, gods hide in circuits too. Nina walked to her car alone. She keyed the ignition, but instead of driving, she sat watching the mall's blank facade. The rising sun painted letters once bold, Meridian. In that name, she heard a dormant heartbeat. She considered deleting her channels, pursuing offline obscurity, but doubt loomed. If she quit, would someone else summon these beings with a newer, dumber stunt? The god's appetite wasn't for her per se, but for whomever could kindle mass attention. She whispered, "Maybe I keep it. Maybe I warn them." Her dashboard chimed, low fuel. She exhaled, turned the key fully, and rolled out of the lot. In her rearview mirror, she saw Old Man Weber locking the chain across the entrance. He paused, staring at the skylight, and for a second Nina feared Koro again. But it was only sunrise glinting off cracked glass. Back home, she showered, scrubbing grime that felt older than industrial soap. The Bluetooth cube, now silent, sat on her bathroom counter. She waited, half expecting it to breathe. Finally, she sealed it in a Tupperware and shoved it in a freezer. By afternoon, news crews hovered outside Meridian, labeling last night a viral flash mob gone rogue. No one reported deities. Authorities blamed smoke pellets, faulty sprinklers, mass hysteria. Nina received emails from talk shows, brand managers, even a streaming service wanting rights. She drafted replies, deleted them, drafted again. At twilight, she opened a new note in her phone and typed, "Attention is worship. Be careful what you praise." She posted no photos, no hashtags, no ads, just that sentence. Followers argued in comments, engagement soared, and somewhere in a freezer, a silent cube pulsed once, slow as a glacial heartbeat. Out beyond the shuttered mall, weeds cracked asphalt, and pigeons nested in its eaves. The forgotten gods, diminished but not gone, listened to the buzz of routers and the whisper of trending tags, patient as mold in shadow. They knew humans could resist a single night of terror, but never their own curiosity. And sooner or later, some influencer standing in the ruins of yesterday's dreams would ask the internet, "Are you ready for the next challenge?" When that happened, the gods would be ready too, waiting with empty stomachs and endless echoes, in the hollow where attention pools like standing water, in every abandoned place that still remembers having been adored.